Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhu will take just a couple of minutes.
Yes, Prabhu, sure.
Prabhu, will you be sharing, Prabhu? I made you co-host. Do you want to share or
Yes.
would you want me to share? Okay, Prabhu.
I can do it.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you. Prabhu, we can get started, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Just 1 minute.
Sure.
Ravi Lochan, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I think you can share the screen. My Veda base is having some issues.
No problem. I'll do that. No problem. Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya on a Saturday morning. Today we have the privilege of having His Grace Premasindhu Gauranga Prabhu. He'll be actually covering Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, which covers the talks between Narada Muni and King Prachina Barhi. Today we'll be just covering verses 42 to 44. Thank you, Prabhu. Over to you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So I welcome all of you for today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And we are having the good fortune of studying Canto 4 here. So let us begin with reciting prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshudam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamala Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhanvitam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanosute Devi Pranamami Haripriya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna. So we are reading 4th Canto 29 chapter verses 42 to 44. So I'll first recite the verse. We'll read the translation and some part of the purport. Prajapati Pati Sakshat Bhagavan Girisho Mano Dakshadaya Prajadyaksha Naishtikaha Sanakadaya Marichir Atriangirasau Pulatsya Pulaha Kratuh Rigur Vashishta Ityete Madanta Brahmavadinah Adyapi Vachaspatayas Vidya Samadhibihi Pashyantopi na pashyanti Pashyantam Parameshwaram. So the translation goes like this. The most powerful Lord Brahma, the father of all progenitors, Lord Shiva, Manu, Daksha, and other rulers of humankind, the four saintly first-class brahmacharis headed by Sanaka and Sanatan, the great sages Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, and Vashishta, and my humble self, Narad, are all stalwart Brahmanas who can speak authoritatively on Vedic literature. We are very powerful because of austerities, meditation, and education. Nonetheless, even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we always see, we do not know perfectly about him. So Narad Muni is describing about the great personality in this universe, like Angira, Pulasya, and beginning with Brahma, Shiva also. And he's saying that they are all very great personalities because of three factors. They have become powerful because of three factors. So you see in the translation, Narad Muni says, what are the three things which they have done because of they have become like this? First is austerity, second is meditation, and third is education. So austerity is tapasya. It's required in every field of activity to succeed. So even when Brahma is taking birth and he's wondering what I should do, so he hears the words tapa, he should do some tapasya. So to succeed in any field of activity, whether spiritual or material, some sort of tapasya is required. Even to succeed in devotional service, some tapasya is required. Now it depends on what kind of spiritual process you are following. So accordingly, the method of tapasya will vary. The second thing which Narad Muni mentions is meditation. Here, meditation means meditating on the Supreme Lord. So, because all of them are devotees who are mentioned here. So, meditation on the Supreme Lord or meditation on his different paraphernalia, like his pastimes, his dham, his devotees, like that. And education. Education means to hear from one's guru. That is education. So these are the three factors which make one powerful. Of course, we are speaking here powerful in the terms of being able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everybody in this world, he wants to become powerful because they want to enjoy more and more, and they want to do more and more sense gratification. But here in Srimad Bhagavatam, in this particular verse, powerful means someone who can see the Supreme Lord. So in this world, everybody wants to impress other people. They want to come in the good books of other people. So we should always know that we should try to come in the good books of Krishna. We should try to impress the Krishna and other acharyas. So that is actually the meaning of real success. All other types of success are simply illusory. Even if we become a great demigod, then still that is temporary. So the real success is being able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here Narad Muni is saying that Even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we always see, we do not know perfectly about him. So these great personalities, they are powerful and successful because they are always able to see the Supreme Lord. And so, of course, no one can know perfectly about the Supreme Lord. We can only know as much as He wants us to know. So even Lord's expansions like Anant Dev, they also do not know the complete glories of the Lord. So the Lord's glories are unlimited and they cannot be known completely. And Narad Muni, out of his humility, he's saying like this, that we don't know about Lord. But definitely there is no one who knows about him better than Narad Muni. But on the other hand, this is also true that one cannot know completely about the Supreme Lord. Okay. So we'll go to purport. Please share the purport. Yes. So in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada is specifically speaking about the ability to see God. And then he says that he is mentioning about Darwin's theory, that how Darwin says that human beings appeared few thousands years back. And before that, there were no human beings. And so what to speak about the histories which are being spoken here, like Narad Muni is speaking about the great rishis who appeared in the beginning of the universe, Sanak Sanatan and Lord Shiva, and Manu and Daksha who appear in the beginning of every millennium. So what to speak about them? These are the histories which are hundreds and millions of years old. So Prabhupada speaks about the Darwinian theory that they are foolish. They say that human beings only appeared few thousand years back. So it is not possible for them to understand these great histories. What to speak about becoming powerful in the sense of being able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be able to see, to be able to understand His glories, to get His mercy. That is very, very difficult. That is impossible for them. So we'll just briefly go through this purport here. Prabhupada writes, according to the foolish Darwinian theory of anthropologists, it is said that 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because the process of evolution had not reached at that point. However, the Vedic histories, the Puranas and Mahabharata, relate human histories that extend millions and millions of years into the past. In the beginning of creation, there was a very intelligent personality, Lord Brahma, and from him emanated all Manus and Brahmacharis like Sanaka and Sanatan, as well as Lord Shiva, the great sages, and Narad. All these personalities underwent great austerities and penances and thus became authorities in Vedic knowledge. So again, what Prabhupada is writing here, that in order to become an authority in Vedic knowledge or an authority in any sense, some austerity, not some great austerity and penance is required. So why it is so, great austerity and penance? Because the human being, by default, he is identifying not the human being, the spirit soul. By default, he identifies himself as the material body. So the nature of the soul is to enjoy. But the nature of enjoyment, which is meant for him, is in relation with Krishna, by serving Krishna. So when he is there in the material universe, he is trapped in the material body. And so he identifies himself with the body. And so he thinks that the idea of enjoyment can be only through the body. And so it is very natural for him to uh, partake in this illusory enjoyment through the body. So that is the problem. And therefore, to take up to spiritual life, to get out of this material universe, cut down the banyan tree, as Prabhupada, as Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, with the weapon of detachment. That is something which is not very natural for him. So he has to go against his natural propensity of identifying with the body and always trying to give enjoyment to the material senses. And that is why you have to go against the flow to practice spiritual life. And that is why it is said here that that is a austerity and penance. Of course, when someone get rid of his anarthas and he comes to the understanding that he is the, not understanding, the realization that he is Krishna's servant, he is the spirit soul, Krishna's servant. So when he gets this realization, when he overcomes anarthas, then practice of spiritual life does not remain a great austerity and penance. It becomes very joyful. Externally, it might seem like austerity and penance. For example, we see in the life of the six Goswamis. So they have attained perfection, but they live a life of material austerity. So why is it so? Because their idea of enjoyment is not coming from the body. Their idea of enjoyment is coming from directly seeing Krishna. They are always seeing Krishna. As Narad Muni is also saying here, that they are always seeing Krishna. So they are always seeing Krishna in their meditation, and they are able to see Krishna face to face. Srila Prabhupada also said that I am never separated from Krishna. I am always with him. So that is their idea of enjoyment, which is real enjoyment, spiritual enjoyment, which is in relation with Krishna. And that is why even if the body is in so-called mode of tapasya, so it does not feel like a misery to them. No. So they are okay with it, or it does not matter to them. But to get to that stage, everybody has to perform some austerity and penance, like we see in the first canto, because Narad Muni's name is written here. So Narad Muni, who was the son of a maid servant, he underwent a lot of tapasya. Then he gets the darshan of Lord Narayan. And then he's told that this is it. After this, he's not going to get darshan of the Lord. The next slide. So Narad Muni, he has undergone so much tapasya. Of course, these are all eternal associates of the Lord. But we see that when eternal associates come here and they do some lila, they are involved in the pastimes of the Lord. They also show by their example that penance and austerity is required, or it's an inseparable part of spiritual practice. So even when eternal associates of the Lord, they come here. For example, Pandavas. So their life is full of austerities and penance. So for attaining bhakti, they are not doing it. But still, the pastimes of the Lord are designed in such a way that even great personalities of the Lord, when they descend here to accomplish some particular mission, the Lord arranges their pastimes in such a way that austerities or penances are there. A lot of austerities, penances, facing challenges are there in their life. It is to show the conditioned souls that in order to become a great devotee, one will have to go through many tests, and the material world is a place of misery. So one should expect that austerities have to be done. One should expect that problems will come. So that is why the great devotees also go through these things. So this is not because of their past bad karma, but this is because the Yoga Maya arranges the pastimes like that. We see in the life of Prabhupada that when Prabhupada he retired from family life, he had to go through so many difficulties. So Prabhupada was printing this Back to Godhead. That time it was just a 4 to 5 pages magazine. And he was not having money. Paper was very difficult to come by. Paper was very expensive that time. And he was staying in Vrindavan. He had to go to Delhi for printing because in Vrindavan there was no facility for printing. And going to Delhi, coming back was expensive for Prabhupada because he did not have any money. Staying in Delhi was even a more expensive affair because where he will stay, who will feed him. So he will go in the morning, he will do his work, and he'll come back in the night, late night, back to Vrindavan. And sometimes throughout the day, he'll not eat anything. And just 1 minute. Yes. So then Srila Prabhupada, when he printed this magazine, so now we see that ISKCON is a big movement, and there are so many people who are, so many devotees distributing books. And being in ISKCON is also like a prestigious thing. Big temples, so many devotees. The most number of educated devotees are connected with our society. And that time, you see, the founder of this movement, so he had this 4-page magazine, and he was trying to distribute in Delhi alone on the street. And sometimes he will go and sit in a tea shop, and he will speak to ordinary people like that are you interested in this subject matter, please take this. And like this, in the very hot summers of Delhi, or in the very extreme cold winters of Delhi, chilly winters of Delhi, he was distributing the books. And sometimes he fainted because of the intense heat. Sometimes I think couple of times, one cow or a bull came and hit him. He was lying on the street. Someone took him and took him to the hospital. And this was the time when Srila Prabhupada did not have a good set of clothes also. So his clothes were torn, his dhoti kurta was torn. He was not having proper set of clothes to wear. So once he went to his godbrother's temple where there was some function, and he gifted him a new set of dhoti kurta. So Prabhupada was very happy that I have a good set of clothes to wear now. So that was the condition of Prabhupada. And even this, in this condition where no one is giving importance to him, no one is listening to him, he continued his service. So what kind of positive attitude he had? It's very surprising. A person who does not have any money, and he is roaming on the streets of Delhi like a helpless person, distributing some books which no one wants, and he has big dreams. he's writing to the President of India, the Prime Minister of India, that I want to start an international movement. Who is going to give importance? So no one replied to him. But Prabhupada, he had faith that Krishna is with him. And one day or the other, this is going to manifest. And the same thing when he landed in the US, in the Commonwealth Pier. So, of course, Commonwealth Pier, he was there for just some time. He wrote that beautiful poem there. And then he got down in New York City and he did not know where to go, left or right. So that was the condition. So we see that these austerities are always there in material world, whether it's pure devotee or it's a conditioned soul like us. So austerities and penances will always be there. So now we have a choice. Either we take up these austerities and penances to progress on the path of bhakti. And otherwise, austerities and penances are anyways going to come. We see that those who are not devotees, in their life also problems come. They also have to go through some austerity penance unwillingly. So, Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. He defines this material universe as Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Dukkhalayam is the abode of misery. So now we all have an option. See, Dukkhalayam means the place of misery. So Dukkha has to come. There is no, we cannot escape Dukkha. So we have an option to accept. So the only option with us is that what kind of Dukkha we want to accept. So either you accept a Dukkha which is helpful on the path of devotional service. For example, doing some austerity and penance, getting up early in the morning, chanting, performing intense sadhana, and controlling the mind and senses, following the instructions of the acharyas, and making ourselves more and more pure. So either we take this kind of dukkha, or we take the dukkha which will come by not doing this. That is again taking birth, again becoming a child, ignorant child, again going to school, and all that, those things. So dukkha has to be taken. The only option is what kind of dukkha you want. So it's better that we take this kind of dukkha which helps us to advance on the path of devotional service. So in the beginning stages of sadhana bhakti, it might seem like a dukkha or tapasya, as we discussed before. But soon it will also transform into sukha. We'll start liking it once we are becoming more purified. So this is the secret. Dukkha has to be taken. There's no option. The only choice is what kind of dukkha you want. So in our life, at every instance, we are always faced with two options. Option A and option B. So option A is always taking dukkha for doing what is correct, what is told in the Vedas. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, the Daiva Asura Sampada. So the Daivi Sampada and Asuri Sampada, the divine and demoniac natures. So these two all options are always there at every instant in our life. We take the Daivi Sampada, that is the path of the scripture, or we take the Asuri Sampada. So even after becoming devotees, we are faced with these things. Whether we should follow something which is good for devotional life, but it will involve some tapasya, which is dukkha for us. Or we should just go for instantaneous enjoyment, which is Asuri Sampada, but which is not good for devotional service. So we have to choose what kind of dukkha we want. So if we choose the dukkha which the great personalities have chosen, of course we should not call it dukkha, but I'm just saying because Krishna tells dukkhalaya moshashvatam. So sadhana is not dukkha, it is also joyfully performed, but definitely in the beginning stages one has to push himself because it is not natural for us. But it is not so much of a dukkha also, like in other spiritual paths. So right in the beginning, there is a lot of joy in devotional service. But still, if you want to progress quickly, if you actually want to have realizations and you want to advance, then one has to undergo some trouble, without which we will not advance. So, can you show the purport, Prabhu? Prabhuji, can you show the purport? Okay. So these great personalities, they have become authorities because they have performed this tapasya, penance. Prabhupada says, all the above mentioned great personalities are not only powerful, being cognizant of the past, present, and future, but are also devotees. Still, in spite of their great education and knowledge, and despite their meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, they cannot actually understand the perfection of the living entity's relationship with Lord Vishnu. This means that these personalities are still limited as far as their knowledge of the unlimited is concerned. The conclusion is that simply by advancing one's knowledge, one cannot be accepted as an expert in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood not by advanced knowledge, but by pure devotional service, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvata. Then Prabhupada says, couple of lines below, the so-called scientists and philosophical speculators are unable to understand the Supreme Lord by virtue of their knowledge. So here Prabhupada is writing that devotional Krishna can be understood only by Krishna's mercy, that is devotional service. So by reading books or just by gathering some data, one cannot know Krishna. So there is a difference between knowing some data about Krishna. That okay, I know these many verses and I know these many pastimes and I can give good lectures, etc., etc. And actually advancing on the path of bhakti. Of course, reading the scriptures is also anga of bhakti, but it should be done in the proper spirit of becoming a bhakta. Then it will help you to advance on the path of bhakti. So, for understanding Krishna, for seeing Krishna, Krishna's mercy is required, which is bhakti. Otherwise, one cannot see Krishna just by knowledge. So, there are many, many great rishis also. What to speak of scientists and philosophical speculators? They are foolish people, as Prabhupada says. Foolish in the terms of spiritual knowledge. They are very expert in their own field of activity. So, for them it is not at all possible to understand Krishna just by becoming a professor, even if they are professors in theology or whatever, because bhakti is not there. So Krishna can only be understood by bhakti. So when Krishna will reveal himself, then we will be able to see Krishna. Otherwise, we will not be able to see Krishna. That is very difficult. So this is confirmed in the Vedic version. Prabhupada says he is quoting a shloka from 10th canto. the speculators, the Gyanis, go on speculating about the Supreme Personality of Godhead for many, many hundreds of thousands of years. But unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand His supreme glories. So we are speaking about the Gyanis who are not the so-called scientists of this age. When Bhagavatam is speaking about Gyanis, they are the Gyanis of the previous yugas, whose jnana, whose mental and physical capacities are unthinkable to us. We cannot even perceive what is their mental capacity, what is their intellectual capacity, physical capacity. So they are very, very advanced people, these Gyanis. And even after being engaged in speculative knowledge for many, many lifetimes, not only many hundreds of years, but lifetimes, for them it is very difficult to understand Krishna. But those who are devotees, they can understand Krishna very easily. Well, easily means the process is easy, but still they have to undergo some tapasya. Otherwise, it is not so easy. Krishna will also test you, only then he will give you that mercy. So in this world, there are various kinds of yoga systems. Prabhupada is speaking here about the Jnanis. So Jnana Yoga is there, Raja Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga, and different types of yoga is there. Yogas are there. But Bhakti Yoga is very, very special. So Krishna directly, he is specifically directing us towards Bhakti Yoga in Srimad Bhagavatam, in other devotional scriptures which are written by our Goswamis. So why this Bhakti Yoga is so special? Because Bhakti Yoga is the devotional service which is performed for Krishna or his other avatars like Vishnu, Ram, etc. Narasimha. So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that work which is done as a sacrifice for Vishnu is to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, please perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. So, those who know Krishna as the Supreme Lord, those who know him, that the whole creation is manifesting from Krishna, and those who know that Krishna is the underlying principle of all the great rishis, all the demigods. If you remember in Bhagavad Gita also, there is a similar verse which tells that even the great demigods and rishis, they do not understand me completely, because it's very difficult to understand one's source. So one who understands that Krishna is the underlying source, then he will be able to understand Krishna at the time of death. And whoever at the time of death, he will quit his body, remembering Krishna alone, he will attain Krishna. In this, there is no doubt. So whatever state of being one remembers while dying, that state he attains without fail. So that's why Krishna is telling Arjuna that you should always remember me. When your mind and intelligence is fixed on me, then you will attain me without any doubt. So that's why we see in the first canto of Bhagavatam, when Arjuna comes back from Dwarka, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking him different questions, that why you are looking so upset, what happened, is this the reason, is that the reason, etc., etc. So many questions Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking, and Arjuna is not replying. And then finally Arjuna says that yes, Krishna has left. At that point of time, Arjuna, he stops speaking, and he becomes ready to retire. And the instructions which Krishna has given to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, they are going on in the mind of Arjuna at that time. Prabhupada writes in the one of the purports there, that Arjuna is thinking of the verse Man mana bhavamad bhakto madhyajivam namaskuru. And so in that verse, Krishna says that Mame Vaishyasi Satyam Te Pratijane Priyosi. So Mame Vaishyasi Satyam Te. Arjuna is remembering that Krishna had promised me that I will come back to him. And this is the truth. And so now the time has come now that Krishna has left, and now there is no more missions and no more missions to be accomplished for us on his behalf. And so the time has come that I should also go back to him. And then eventually all the Pandavas, they'll retire. So Krishna is thinking about Arjuna is thinking about the instructions which Krishna gave to him. Mame Vaishyasi Satyam Te. You will come back to me in this, there is no doubt. This is the truth. So Krishna has already given a promise. So he also tells Arjuna in some other place in Bhagavad Gita that the form which you are seeing with your eyes, cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas. I think it's in the 11th chapter. Not by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity or worship. So it is not by these means that you are able to see me as I am. Krishna is telling Arjuna. But only by devotional service, I can be understood as I am. So, and one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and mental speculation, so he will come back to me. So Krishna is telling there. So Krishna also explains in Srimad Bhagavatam that the residents of both the heaven and hell, they want to take a human birth. Since human life, it provides the best facility for transcendental knowledge. Furthermore, Krishna also explains in Bhagavatam the highest level of happiness which can be attained when we get a taste for serving him. So initially, it seems that this sadhana bhakti is tapasya. But through this tapasya, the highest level of happiness can be attained. What is the science? How to do this? Krishna says that we have to fix our consciousness on him, on Krishna, and we have to give up material desires. And once we do that, once we have the practice of doing that, fixing the consciousness on Krishna, then we will share a happiness with Krishna, which cannot be described in words, which is much more greater than the happiness which comes through sense gratification. So if we do not desire anything of this world, and our senses are controlled, and our consciousness is equipoised in all situations, and the mind is satisfied in thinking of Krishna, then we will find happiness wherever we go. So what Krishna is telling, that what is happiness? Happiness is Krishna consciousness. What is Krishna consciousness? Krishna consciousness means being it is the ability to always think of Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. So it does not depend on external situations. Krishna is telling that if we do not desire anything of this world, again, this is from Bhagavad Gita. And when the mind is satisfied, then, and also when the senses are controlled, mind is satisfied thinking of Krishna, then wherever we go, we'll find happiness. Generally in this world, we think that if this particular situation comes, then I'll be happy in Krishna consciousness. I'm not speaking about karmis here. I'm speaking about devotees. If that particular situation comes, then I'll be happy. But actually, there's nothing like this. So if we are able to think of Krishna, then we'll always be happy. And if we are not able to think of Krishna, then even if that situation which you are aspiring for, it comes, still you will not be unhappy. There also you will see some problem that, okay, this is not proper. Maybe if I just tweak this thing little bit, then I will be happy. So that is the nature of material world. So happiness means being able to remain Krishna conscious, always thinking of Krishna. That is real happiness. That is the definition of happiness. So if the mind is able to do that, then one will always be happy irrespective of external situations. And if we are lacking this quality, then we will not be happy. So that is why even after becoming devotee, we have not become completely happy, because we have to still perfect our devotional service. And then when the point comes that we are always able to think of Krishna, then we'll be happy. So till that time, some austerities and penances, they have to be performed. The austerity and penance is to give up sense gratification, controlling the senses, which is easier on the path of Bhakti Yoga, because on the path of Bhakti Yoga, you can engage the senses in so many different activities. In other yoga systems, you have to artificially restrain them. But even when we have the opportunity of engaging the senses and mind in so many different things, still it is not so easy. Not that easy. Because even when we have the option of engaging the mind and senses in devotional service, the mind will naturally go to something else. He'll say, okay, we'll do this later. First, let me enjoy that. So that's what we were speaking earlier. The mind will always have two options. Option A, option B. One is the Daivi Sampada, one is the Asuri Sampada. So we have to choose. We have to choose the dukkha, because this is dukkha layama shashvatam. You want to take dukkha of practicing devotional service because you don't like it. But eventually, as Krishna tells, it will make you happy. Or you want to take the dukkha of suffering later on by enjoying now. So suffering is always going to be there. Either you suffer now, do some tapasya and advance in devotional service, or you don't do it and suffer later. So we have to choose our dukkha. That is the meaning of dukkha lama ashashvatam. Choose your dukkha. So someone who is on the path of devotional service, for him, he does not have to separately engage in mystic yoga. He does not have to be enamored by some miracles or these things. Because the nature of the mind is like this. When you will see one miracle, the mind will say, oh, I wish I had this kind of ability. I will also use that in devotional service. It is so wonderful. And then at some point of time, you might see a miracle which is greater than that previous one, which you just saw. And then you will think that, no, I should have that one, not this one. And when you'll see all the types of miracles, all the siddhis which are existing in this universe, after experiencing all of them, then you'll understand that all of them are actually not giving me happiness. The only happiness is by thinking about Krishna. That is the only happiness. So it's better that we understand it without doing it. So for devotees, there is no path, there is no need of endeavoring separately for mystic yoga and all those things. So the powerful effect and process of bhakti yoga, which is thinking and dedicating one's activities to Lord Krishna, is very, very wonderful. So what is devotional service bhakti yoga? In simple terms, it is thinking about Krishna and dedicating all one's activities to Lord Krishna. That is bhakti yoga. So the same result can also be acquired by proper association with those who are spiritually advanced. So in this regard, Krishna personally told Uddhava that by association with pure devotees, one can destroy the desire for the objects of sense gratification. So the mind always has two options, as we discussed earlier, option A, option B. And I am speaking about devotees, not non-devotees. So even after becoming devotees, we have this desire, whether I should do this or that. So how this desire of not engaging in bhakti yoga, not taking that tapasya, going the extra mile to do that penance to advance of bhakti yoga, you know, how it's going to happen, or how that desire of not doing it is going to go away. Krishna tells Uddhava that by association of devotees who are pure, that desire for object of sense gratification will go away. So this is a very powerful tool. So one need not go to the forest or restrain the senses artificially. One does not have to engage in Ashtanga Yoga system or do engage in the ordinary principles of piety like digging wells, charity, planting trees, public welfare, etc., etc. So these things can also be done definitely with devotional service. But for seeing Krishna, as the verse tells, or to get association of Krishna, or to destroy the desire for sense objects. So this is a very powerful tool to advance with devotees. Just by doing that, the desire will go away. So not so much endeavor is required there, tapasya, to associate with devotees. So we search devotees who are very sincere and they're practicing very nicely, and we go and take their association. So there is not much endeavor is required, not much philosophical speculation, vows, penance is required, rituals are required, studying Vedas is required. So you just go and associate with them, hear from them, take their association. So by doing this, it becomes possible to uh, attain the same result which is achieved by the penance and tapasya, which is written in this verse. So if someone gets the association of very wonderful devotees, then he will get the same result which others will achieve by doing great penance and tapasya. That is Krishna. This Krishna is telling Uddhava. We see that as residents of Vrindavan, the gopis, they are very attached to Krishna, and they don't have any other happiness in their life, and they cannot tolerate separation from Krishna even from one moment. So all the nights which gopis spent with Krishna, all those nights they passed by just like one single moment. And when Krishna went to Mathura, bereft of his association, the gopis felt the same nights as if they are dragging on forever, as if each night is a day of Brahma. So, just as the great sages in yoga, in the trance of yoga, they merge in the Brahma Jyoti. And it's like the river merging in the ocean. They become oblivious to their own identity. So similarly, the gopis of Vrindavan, they are so completely attached to Krishna, his forms, his thoughts, that they have become completely oblivious to their own existence, their own bodies, of anything of this world, of anything of the past, present, or future. So their complete consciousness is simply absorbed in Krishna. So though they are not completely aware of Krishna's actual position by the potency of Yoga Maya, they don't think that, oh, he is Narayana and he is manifesting universes, etc., etc. But just by their thoughts and association with Krishna, they attain Krishna. So this is the example which we see, that the devotees who are always thinking of Krishna, and so they attain the same result which others will get by undergoing great penance, and their result will be much more better, because from the point of view of rasa, they will attain a higher rasa. So just like when the gopis are thinking of Krishna, they are completely becoming oblivious of their own bodies. They are becoming oblivious of past, present, and future. And externally, it seems that they are unhappy. There is unhappiness, separation, misery. But internally, they are always thinking of Krishna. So there is also joy. So this Vipralamba, it looks like misery externally, but internally it is a joyful state because they are thinking of Krishna. So when one comes to this stage of always remembering Krishna, then the so-called austerities and tapasyas, they cease to exist. We see a similar thing in the Sikh Goswamis of Vrindavan. They are oblivious to their bodies, and they are also externally sometimes very morose. They are searching for Krishna in Vrindavan. He Radhe Brajadevi ke chalalite, he Nanda Shuno Kutha, Shri Govardhana Kalpa Pada Patale, Kalindi Vanye Kutha. So they are searching for Krishna in the forests of Vrindavan, in Govardhan, like that. So externally, it seems that their body is emaciated and they are miserable, but actually inside they are very joyful. So now the austerities, they cease to exist because their conception of happiness, enjoyment, is no longer on a physical plane. It is on a spiritual plane. So that is what is discussed in this particular verse. Great personalities, they undergo penance and austerities, and because of that they become powerful. They are able to see Krishna always. So this penance is required. World is dukkhalayam. One has to accept some dukkha. Either you accept the dukkha of engaging in bhakti and going against your inherent nature of enjoying with the material body, or you accept the dukkha of not doing it and suffering later, taking births over and over again. And on the path of bhakti, even the dukkha is minimized very much, because the same result can be achieved by association with devotees. And this process of association with devotees, as Krishna is telling Uddhava, is a process which does not involve much tapasya, much Vedic study, nothing. So one has to associate these devotees, serve them. So that itself will cure one of the desire to enjoy material, engage the senses in their objects. And once that desire of engaging the senses in the sense objects is gone, then that concept of tapasya will also be gone. What is tapasya? Tapasya means the senses wants to engage in the sense objects, but we are stopping it. We are stopping that process. Of course, on bhakti, as we discussed, the senses can be engaged in different ways, but still, even after having this option, the mind will always choose another option, not that option. So once this conception of the senses being attracted to the objects of the senses is gone, and the only object of the senses becomes thinking of Krishna and Krishna consciousness, thinking of Krishna and serving Krishna, then we'll also attain the same result as is attained by these great personalities, as written in this verse. the great sages Brahma, Shiva, Sanak, Sanatan, Narad, Kritu, Kratu, Bhrigu, Pulaha, Pulastya, like that. So what these great personalities have attained is also available to us, and it is available to us in a shorter span of time. In Kali Yuga, it can be attained in a shorter span of time also by mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So one has to choose one's dukkha wisely. You know, choose your dukkha wisely and live well. So that is the essence. And by engaging in Bhakti Yoga, then we can also one day hope to attend the stage which the gopis of Vrindavan they attend. All right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the, okay, thank you for the wonderful class and very nicely explaining in terms of what is being powerful is the ability to see the Lord, and then the three factors of austerities, meditation, education. You just covered in depth, and what you're also trying to say for we can use it either for sense gratification, and in any field you need it. Otherwise, and you very nicely brought about how the devotees, the Goswamis, the idea of enjoyment was on a spiritual platform. So they never considered these as they were totally engaged and absorbed in serving the Lord. And you also very nicely talked about the that this material world is Tukalyam Ashashwatam. So we have a choice whether we want to go to the Devi Sampati or the Asuri Sampada. The two of them which we can go. And then you covered the various things that it is Bhakti Yoga, which actually is the right and complete path. And Prabhupada, you just covered about Prabhupada, how he went through the austerities and penances, how he went through. And also for us, being in Krishna consciousness, you define very nicely the ability to always think of Krishna and dedicate all our activities to Krishna. And that does not require any external dependencies, but we can easily do it through association of devotees, which makes it very easy and simple. And you took the example of gopis, how they were totally absorbed in the Lord, and they never, though externally we were seeing them as being unhappy, but internally they were in bliss. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So I will just open the lines for devotees to ask questions. Before that, there is already one question in the chat box. Sankarshan Prabhu is asking, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranams. Can you please give an example of some jnanis who followed this process and failed or succeeded?
Example of some jnanis who followed this process and failed or succeeded. So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that out of many jnanis, someone will come to devotional service. So when we read Brihad Bhagavatamrit, then when you'll see that Gopakumar is going to Tapoloka, all the lokas are described there. When he goes to Tapoloka, you'll see. So when we read the descriptions in Brihad Bhagavatamrit, so it speaks about the people of that particular planet, or that not exactly planet, that particular spiritual, that material realm. And by understanding how they speak, what are their conversations with Gopakumar, we also understand that what they do. So when he is going to this Tapoloka, so they are all jnanis there. Some of them are also devotees of the Lord, but many of them, they are like jnanis. So you read Gopakumar's conversation with people of Tapoloka, and they are speaking so much about the different types of knowledge systems and understanding the Supreme Lord. Some of them are impersonalists also. So the example of becoming unsuccessful is someone who becomes an impersonalist. After researching through the Vedas and reading so many things, ultimately he takes up to the path of impersonalism, which is also a bona fide path, because the Supreme Absolute Truth can be known as impersonal also, that we read in Bhagavatam. But those who are devotees, they are not so much interested in this path of impersonalism, because impersonalism means merging in Brahmajyoti. What is merging in Brahmajyoti? One's personal identity, the idea of being, you know, the idea of I am being, it ceases. Then there is no more question of going to the Vaikuntha planets and serving the Supreme Lord, unless sometimes some devotees are traveling through Brahmajyoti and they might be merciful. But these instances are very rare, because there are uncountable living entities in the Brahmajyoti. So that is called as becoming unsuccessful from the point of view of devotional service. So there are 5 kind of muktis which are explained in the scripture. Sayujya mukti, which is basically merging in Brahman, Brahmajyoti. It is rejected by Vaishnavas. So this is what we can say becoming unsuccessful from the point of view of devotees, or from the point of view of the Bhakti Shastras, what we discuss in our Sampradaya. So that is becoming unsuccessful. Some people will become successful also after long practice. For example, Vishwamitra is there. So Vishwamitra, his practice, it starts with a material desire. So he has a competition with Vashishta and he wants to become better than him. So it does not even start from the point of view of jnana. It starts from the point of view of karma. He wants to become superior. Eventually, so many things happen in his life. Urvashi comes, Rambha comes, and then many other instances also happen with Vashishta. And gradually he is becoming more and more purified. So from a king, he becomes a Rajarshi, then he becomes a different categories of rishis are there. So he wants to become a Brahma Rishi, which is Vashishta. And then one day he becomes a Brahma Rishi also, and Vashishta acknowledges him. Okay, he has become a Brahma Rishi. Now one can say he is successful on the path of Jnana, Tapasya. After so many fall downs, finally he is successful. But even that is not success, because when Lord Ram appears in this world, that time Vishwamitra, he becomes his guru. And of course, Vishwamitra is coming to take Ram and Lakshman to kill Tadaka. And when Vishwamitra is taking Ram and Lakshman in the forest to kill Tadaka, then he gives to Ram and Lakshman 2 of his powers. He surrenders 2 of his powers to Ram and Lakshman, Bala and Ati Bala. So this Bala and Ati Bala, this is basically all of his spiritual and material powers. So now when he is surrendering all his, tapasya, his great mystic power, he created one separate planet for Trishanku, and that was the level of his mystic potencies. So now when he surrenders all his spiritual and material powers at the lotus feet of Lord Ram, then finally he actually gets satisfaction, because now he is coming on the platform of devotional service. So one can say that, okay, Vishwamitra was successful when he became a Brahma Rishi. But from the point of view of Bhakti Yoga, it is still not a success. So success is not it's different from the point of view of different processes. So when we are speaking about success, this success means being able to see Krishna as it's written in that verse. That is the definition of success on the path of Bhakti Yoga. Otherwise, there are different types of successes, and the yogis who want to merge in Brahmajyoti and they are able to do that, that is success for them. And it is also one of the types of muktis which is mentioned in the scriptures, one of the 5 muktis, Sayujya Mukti. So those who are not on the path of Bhakti Yoga, they will say that they attained success. But for us, the definition of success is coming to the point of devotional service. So success is also different for different people. It's not the same. For us, success means those who become successful in seeing Krishna, they are successful. Otherwise, it's not such a big success, even if it is becoming a great Brahma Rishi. So it's like that. So examples are there, many, those who became impersonalists, as I said. So it's not considered a success. From their point of view, it could be success. But from our point of view, it's not a success. And so our point of view is the point of view of Bhagavata. It's like that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from devotees? Prabhu, there are no questions. So maybe thank you for your wonderful association today. Thank you for just joining us. We keep wanting to have you again and again. We just end this one session with the Vaishnav Pranam. Vancha Kalpatarubhascha.
Sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namaः. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Vrinda ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada.
Bhagavata ki jai. Shri Devat Prabhupada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.